Hey Internet, it's RJ. Welcome back. Thanks for tuning into the show today. Now, today's episode, we've got a classic one-on-one video for you. We're talking all about your credit card statement. We're going to go over a credit card statement, talk about all the sections, what everything means, terminology, and all that, to make sure when you're looking at this funny documentation, you are well prepared and know exactly what to do. So, of course, if that sounds interesting to you, go ahead, press the subscribe button, and let's get to work. Now, of course, most of this time is going to be spent over here on the computer walking through one of my credit card statements. For example, we're going to use a Chase statement because, I have a lot of Chase cards, and Chase is pretty popular, but again, most credit card statements are going to look fairly similar to this. Things might be in a different layout or order, but the concept will still be the same. Now, really quick, why is this important? You probably don't even get statements mailed to you anymore. You probably just get the email that your statement is ready to view, and you can go in and pull it down in the PDF. And that's exactly what we're going to do. What's still important is even if you go through the app, which most of us do, to figure out what you owe, make your payments, and see your points, it's all based on your credit card statement. And when it comes to banks, it's all about system of record and documentation. So the system of record is what they use internally, and the documentation is going to be the credit card statement. So if there was ever an issue with something, for example, disputing a payment, disputing points, something like that, you would reference your credit card statement and show them where on the statement it went wrong or wasn't getting counted. That would kind of be the way to go. So we still need to understand it. And of course, this is, one of the more important things in credit cards. It doesn't really get talked about a ton, but all this points and stuff doesn't do anything if we don't pay the statement in full, every single time. Yes, we'll talk about minimum payments, but realistically, we want to pay it in full and almost treat it like a debit card. Of course, you already know that. So like I said, we're not going to really get too much farther just talking about it. So let's jump over to the computer. We're going to, again, we'll walk through the statement itself. We'll call out some things. We'll come back here for final thoughts. Alright guys, so here we are on my Chase statement. So this is from my Ink Premier card, and it's a little bit older of a statement, but I have a lot of information on here, so it seemed like the best option for our example here. But if you have a personal card or something, it's going to be like, very similar layout. So we'll start up at the top. So you have the Chase and the Ink, just let you know, it's the Chase Ink line. All your contact info up top. If you need to call them, download the app, go to your account, what have you. Now we'll start from left to right. So over here we have the new balance. So when I ended the billing period, $5,013.94. The minimum payment due date here, because this is Chase's version of like a charge card, the minimum payment is the full balance, right? So if you were using another card, like maybe the Chase Freedom, for example, then this would maybe be like $25 or a percentage of this. But for this specific card, Chase has you pay in full. Now, it's important to note here, of course, this is how you should always think of it in your mind, that you want to pay the full amount back every month, because if you start carrying interest, then of course, none of these points over here that we'll talk about in a second start to make any sense, because you start to devalue them very quickly. But of course, make sure you just make the minimum payment if nothing else. Now they have the due date as well, and very nice of them, they have a calendar here. They actually call out the exact date on the calendar when this payment was due. So that's very handy. And of course, we have the late payment stuff down here saying, hey, if we do not receive your payment by the due date, you may have to pay a late fee, which may seem generous because you're definitely going to have to pay a late fee, but it'll be $40 or 2% of the minimum payment, whichever is greater. So 2% of this is, I think, about $100, give or take. So you definitely don't want to do that, because you'll still owe the money and they'll just keep racking it up. So not good. Definitely want to make the payment there. So over here on the right, we have Ultimate Rewards. Now, I always find this slightly annoying how they break this out. So this card, this specific card that we're talking about, earns 2% back on all purchases. Then it earns 2.5% back on purchases over $5,000. So what they've done, though, is they say, hey, the first line is your 2 points back on purchase and all purchases. Here's your points paid. And the previous balance was 0 because I just got this card when I did this. This is my first statement. So anything over $5,000 or more, they are giving an extra half a point for, right? So this is how they break it out. I think it'd be easier if they had 2 and then 2.5 and kept it separate, but whatever, this is how they do it. Now, I also was able to hit the new card member bonus, also known as sign-up bonuses, right here of 100,000 points. So they added that in as well, which gives you your total points available for redemption of 126,980, which is not bad. This part here basically just tells you exactly what I just told you, so we don't have to go through that. Now, account summary will make more sense when we go to the detailed version, but we'll run through this really quick because without context, it's kind of hard to maybe hard to get. So previous balance again was 0 because this is the first time I had the account open. Of course, you're just blacking out the account number. Now, payments and credit. So what happened here was I have a credit limit on $10,000. You can see that right down here. And so I needed to spend, I forget how much it was, I think 10 grand or something to hit the sign-up bonus. So I made a payment, bought something, I think this is what I paid off my car with. I made a payment of $6,000. I made a purchase of $6,000, really. So then as a result, I also made a payment immediately of $6,000 because I wanted to hit this right away. Didn't want to wait to the end of the statement to pay it and then do this again. So that's what they mean by credit, right? Now this flex for business, we don't really need to spend much time on that. This is basically Chase saying, hey, something in here that you purchased is eligible for flex for business. It's basically saying that if you needed to have more time to pay it off, you could enroll in that. But for our purposes, we don't need to worry about that. Now we have, of course, purchases, so you can see the amount of purchases, and then, of course, pay in full. So they're doing some math here if you wanted to do that. Now, fees charged, this is the annual fee, right? So if you had any type of fee, they would put it here. But this card has an annual fee of $195. So they're saying, hey, we're going to put it into the total. There's in pay in full terms right here. And then it flex for business, it's still the same amount. So basically you've got 3 columns here. And if you wanted to pay attention to the flex for business, you could do that. That's why these numbers don't match up exactly. I think this makes it kind of confusing for people, honestly, but of course they want to push their flex for business service, because when you look across here, you're like, why don't these match? Well, that's why. Fees charged, of course, there we go. So interest, no interest yet. And then new balance, minimum payment due. Of course, this does end up matching up all together because if you had accepted a flex for business deal, then it would be down here, but because you haven't enrolled in that, then it's not down here. So I think it's a little bit confusing. Most personal cards will not have this, though pay over time services are getting more popular. So this very well could say my Chase plan is the personal one, or Amex has the Amex buy now, pay later. So expect to see something like this. Just remember, unless you've enrolled in it, these are the 2 columns you want over here. This will make more sense when we scroll down to the transaction details. So additional details, account opening and closing date, so February 15th through March 6th. So you always get that grace period, like 3-week grace period to make your payment. That's why it was due on March 28th and not immediately. So again, we talked about the credit limit, credit access line, $10,000. I have, this much $4,900 available because I have this outstanding payment here. We have a flex for business limit of $2,000. $2,000 is available to us. Again, I'm not going to spend too much time on the flex for business. They're just up here at $779, saying something you bought is eligible for flex for business, but not everything you bought is eligible. So you don't really need to confuse the point there. Cash access line, you never really want to use this. That's, cash advances. Cash advances come with a lot of fees and high interest, so you don't want to touch that, but they do show you what you have, and if you've gone over the credit line access, they have that as well. So moving on down, this section's actually really old. If you were ever to get one of these in the mail, which they will still mail you, I think, if you want, but again, this is just a PDF. This is where you could tear this off and put in how much money you're going to send them. So you drop your check in here, you need a stamp, and you can see it's got their address on it right there. It have your account number. You just put in how much you're paying. The check has, your info there, and then they would accredit it to your account. You can also pay that. I would just basically pay through the app, though. You could do this if you wanted to, but I really don't think anyone's doing this anymore. It was a coupon, I believe, is what it was called back in the day. So if you need to contact them about some information, again, there's some phone numbers depending on where you're at. Calling's going to be the easiest. If you have an issue with your statement, I would not send inquiries to this. I don't even know why they include this one here. Like, why would you mail them? Don't do that. Of course, mailing payments if you want to, and then you can do secure message as well if you want to go through the website. Now, this other stuff here is just kind of break down more terms and conditions about making your payment. They have some stuff about the annual fee here that we talked about. This card has a $195 annual fee. This really only is helpful once a year upon renewal, so we won't really spend too much time on that. But then they have their disclosures about calculating rates, reporting to credit bureaus. So all stuff, if you could, had a question, it would be helpful potentially to read through this. We won't spend a ton of time on this though. But again, if you want to inquire about your current limit options, you can do that. They're kind of just breaking down stuff like that. I'll be honest, I very rarely go through and read all this unless I have a specific question. So we're getting close to the end here. And this is probably the more helpful part. So this is the actual account activity. So these can give you the date, the merchant name or transaction, and the actual amount. So again, I think they put it in order of credits and then charges. So we'll just take it from the top. So Visa Savings Edge discount was from plastic. Again, that's just a credit being applied to the account. Payment, this is the payment I talked about making earlier, the $6,000 payment there. And then this was the charge for plastic to GM Financial. This was a service fee. Plastic breaks out the service fee separately, I believe. So that's what that was for. Now we also have another payment. Like I said, was making 2 payments. So you can see the first one and the second one here. Now, U.S. Treasury, so now we finally figure out what they're saying I could have included in my Chase plan. It was the U.S. Treasury. I paid my taxes with this card as well. So it was $779. That matches what we had up top. So not everything is eligible for that. And then we have March 1st, the annual fee, the annual membership fee. Again, $195. And we just kind of have a breakdown. They have it right here. Total fees charged in 2022. Total interest charged, $0. So this is a much more helpful. But again, the one up top was just meant to be account summary. But this is more helpful to understand, what's happening and where they're all coming from. So that's pretty much it. I mean, we scroll down a little bit further. Again, we talked about their Flex for Business deal. Again, a lot of other card issuers have this. It'll probably just be called something else depending on what you're looking at. Again, my Chase plan is for personal. Amex has their own version as well. So I would expect to see something like this on other statements. And then we kind of scroll down, we get to pretty much the end. Yep, the end. So there's that. That is, your full credit card statement. Overall, not too bad. Again, it can get longer if you have more charges and whatnot. But again, overall, not too bad there. So let's flip it back and talk about final thoughts. And so there we have it, guys. That was, again, the Chase credit card statement. Now, again, overall, it's not too bad. And I will say, to their credit, I do think, issuers, either once by regulations or whatnot, have made statements a little bit easier to read and follow along with. And again, this isn't something that I would say you need to pull up your credit card statement every single month. I think scrolling through the app before you make your payment, will be just fine. Of course, even if, you set up automatic payments, it's always a good idea to set up automatic payments, at least for the minimum amount, just so you won't have any late payments, then of course, if you still have, leftover payment, you can go ahead and make that. But even if you forget, it's better to get hit with that interest than, an actual late payment. So that's always, a good tip. But again, I still recommend before you actually hit pay, on the full amount, just scroll through it and make sure, because, even things that aren't fraudulent end up getting slid in, like credit card annual fees, right? So we saw I had an annual fee on that statement because that was the first statement I got for that card. But, credit card companies don't tell you when your annual fee is posting, right? They just post it and bill you for it. So if you have auto pay set up for the full amount and you didn't really want to renew that card, it's entirely possible that they just slid that in there and you're going to get hit with it. So again, it doesn't even have to be malicious, but checking for things like that can definitely go a long way. So anyways, guys, if you want to see any other 101 type videos, I'm building out a playlist about it, so just let me know what you're looking for down below and we can definitely work on that. But anyways, guys, that's been it for this one. So if you liked it, drop me a thumbs up down below. If you found it particularly interesting, of course, consider subscribing to the channel. Again, posting content just like this every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Of course, right back here every Sunday with all the news you can use in the week that was in credit and finance. Again, my question for you guys is let me know, if you have any other questions or comments about your credit card statement or what other 101 videos you would like to see in this playlist, so we can make sure you have all the information you have to take all the points from all the banks. Anyways, guys, that's going to do it for this one. As always, thank you so much for watching. I'll talk to you very soon in the next one.